Hari Om. We shall chant the 9th verse. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyan Samanusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. Okay, together. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyan Samanusmaredyaha Sarvasya Dhataramachintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat. So this chapter begins with Arjuna's question regarding the various facets of that supreme reality. And finally, the last question of Arjuna, Prayana Kale cha katham neyosi niyatatmavihi. How can one know you at the time of death? Prayana Kale. So Bhagavan says that at that time of death, whatever we think, so we become. Whatever memory, whatever conviction we have, with that conviction, when we leave this body, we attain to that state. So one who remembers me and leaves the body attains me. But one who remembers something else attains that something else. Therefore, this is the law of nature. Therefore, Bhagavan says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. Therefore, at all times you remember me. Constantly you develop this practice of remembering me, of keeping me in your mind, of paying attention to me, of feeling my presence in your life, of dedicating all your actions to me, getting tuned to me, seeing me in everything and everyone. So constant practice is required because our mind is now tuned to something else. Our attention is on the names and forms and the world. So we have to shift that attention from the world, from the outer names and form, to the essence of the world, God. So when one constantly remembers, then Bhagavan says, your mind and intellect will reside in me and you will attain me. So what is the nature of that supreme reality is indicated in this verse which we chanted, that with 8 indicators that one has to remember this supreme reality which is pointed out by these words. These are words. Words have meaning, and that meaning indicates. Like for example, I use the word water. Water has got a meaning, and that meaning indicates that object called water. When you see that object called water, it doesn't have any words. It doesn't have any meaning also, in the sense it is just an object, wordless and beyond all thoughts. Similarly, all these words which are there, they have meaning. So first step is to listen to the words. Second step is to understand the meaning. Third step is to shift our attention to that which we have understood. And fourth step is to drop all words and keep the attention there. In 6th chapter also we have seen, Bhagavan says that slowly and steadily pay attention to the self and then drop all thinking. Atma sanstam manak kritva na kinchit abhi chintayet. Thereafter you don't think. So these are great, beautiful pointers that Supreme Reality is all-knowing, it is eternal, it is the controller of everything and everyone in this world. It is subtler than the subtlest. It is the nourisher of all, beyond all comprehension, beyond all thoughts, of the nature of pure light, light of consciousness, and beyond all darkness. So Bhagavan says, one who anusmared yaha, he who constantly remembers me in this way, of this nature, will ultimately attain me. Now in the next verse, 10th verse, Bhagavan gives us a great technique of remembering and merging into him. The final, stage of realization, the final step of enlightenment is revealed in this 10th verse, the last door. Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upayati divyam prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upayati divyam. Bhagavan says, prayana kale, at the time of death, the time of leaving this body and going. This prayana kal can also be understood as the death of the ego. One is the physical death, means the body is left behind and one dies. But that is also not prayan, because again we are born. But here one can understand, as our Gurudev points out in the commentary, that this is the death of the ego, death of the personality. It's like death of Siddhartha and birth of Gautam Buddha. So death of this limited personality. So ego is a self which is defined by words, defined by thoughts, defined by our memories, defined by our body and environment. It's a defined self. Self-defined is called ego. Self-undefined is the real self. And this definition we keep on modifying. Every time we keep on modifying this definition. A new degree we get, so we add it to our definition. New experience we get, we add it to our definition. New wealth we get, we add it to definition. I am a wealthy person. That's my definition. Or I am an intelligent person. Or I am I am a Hindu, or I am an Indian. Different types of definitions we have given to our own self. If you remove all these definitions are with respect to the body, the mind, and various ideas. But all those ideas and mind and body cannot really define or confine that pure self. So these are only conditionings. Like the pot conditions the space, the pot, the mud, it conditions the space. So when it conditions, the space appears very small, restricted, restrained within. But when you break the pot, or without breaking the pot, when you transcend your attention away from the pot to that space, pure space, you suddenly experience yourself to be, the space to be infinite. In the same way, the self is defined, and that self which is defined and which is limited is our ego, our limited personality, the jiva bhava. So here prayan means when the ego is totally dissolved. With ordinary death, the ego is not dissolved. The ego is born again with new definition, with new form. He is born again. It's like our chip, not potato chip, but our mobile chip. So you remove it from one instrument and you put it in another equipment. It is still there. Even when it is free from equipment, its presence is there. You get the bill. Its presence is felt. But when you just surrender it, dissolve it completely, then it is no longer there. Similarly, this ego is not, it doesn't die, it doesn't perish with just the death of the body. The body is just the outer covering of that ego. It's the outer dress. It removes one dress and wears another dress. It doesn't even remember the dress which was worn. We don't remember our past, our past lives and all. We don't remember. All that we see on television and all just some sort of gimmicks, I think. We don't remember the past. That doesn't mean we didn't have a past. We had. And we were very much attached to that body also. We might have taken that body for jogging every day. Maybe to the same garden, Lodi garden. Who knows? But we don't remember. And if you are told and shown that body, and if you are told that you want to enter that body again, 99% people will say, no, Baba, I don't want. This is mine. I like this one, the present one. So, prayana kal here is the death of the ego. This is the final stage. Once the ego is dead and gone, one experiences the pure self. With that experience of the pure self, one may still utilize and use, and one may still remember the ego, but it is no longer identified with. One no longer identifies with the body. One is aware of the body. The realized masters are aware of the body. Gautam Buddha was aware of his past also. But there was no identification with that personality. He had transcended that personality. So, prayanakal, at the time of death of this ego, when we, with full attention, when we remember God and constantly keep that attention on Him, then that prayanakal actually takes place, the ego gets dropped and one gets an abidance in that Supreme Self. What you call shift takes place. Paradigm shift happens. So Bhagavan talks about it here. He says, Prayana Kale, at the time of that death of the ego, Manasa Achalena, with a steady mind, Achalena Manasa, Bhaktya Yuktaha, endowed with bhakti, endowed with devotion, Yoga Balena Chaiva, also endowed with the strength of yoga. We will try to understand each and every word. The mind steady, endowed with devotion and the strength of yoga. Bruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyaka. Bhagavan says, you bring your prana, the life energy, the life force, in between your eyebrows. In between your eyebrows, bring the entire life energy there. And when one does this, satam param purusham upayati, then that person attains that param purusha, which was indicated in the previous verse. What param purusha? Divyam, this divine supreme person. That supreme reality is indicated here as param purusha. Purusha means that which pervades everything, that which holds everything, one who is the sustainer of everything. That Purusha one attains. So this is the final step. And this step is possible when one has gone through all the previous steps. One has purified the mind enough through Karma Yoga. One who has made the mind single-pointed through various upasanas. One who has further purified the mind through bhakti. One who has purified the mind still further through jnana. One who has gained the strength of this mind through constant practice of meditation. Such a person who is ready, whose mind is all set, one who is all ready, such a person can take this final leap. It's like in the world, sometimes people go into various types of sports and all, like skydiving or some other diving, parachute jumping. To put a parachute and jump from the plane from a certain height. Now for this, that jump is the final thing, but one has to get various training. First training is to tie that parachute properly. And various trainings are there. And the final step is to jump. One may, sitting at home, using computer and other simulation technique and all, may try to practice. But actually when the person is standing there, I have not done it, but I can imagine, you can imagine, imagination Bhagavan has given us. So actually when you are standing, the plane is at a very great height and the air is coming from that open door and all, and you are standing there and your instructor is telling you to jump and you are hesitating, you are looking down and everything is appearing so small and tiny and all, and the clouds are also there and you have to jump. At that time, what will happen to your heart is something different. But sitting in your computer pe jump mare, that is a different story. So, the death of the ego is something much frightening thing. See, normal death is also frightening. But this death of ego is 1,000 times more frightening. 1,000 may be a less number. It's like extinction of that personality totally. So the ego also feels it at a deeper depth. See, there are this like sleep. Sleep is also like a death, a temporary death. We die and we are born again when we wake up. Again we die, again we are born again. So in the same body we are born. So one is not afraid to go to sleep. Of course, if you are driving and all, you should not. But otherwise, one doesn't get frightened because we know I will be born again in the same body. Death, ordinary death, is like dying into one body, from one body and taking birth into another, waking up in some other body. That is also not frightening because the ego has carried the memory of this from past so many lifetimes. Even those who don't believe in rebirth and all, they also carry this memory. So ego is really speaking not so much afraid of this death also. As a person, chalo, so jate hain. But the ego has not experienced its own extinction. It is frightened. Therefore, in Ashtavakra Gita, the teacher says that people are afraid of meditation also. This type of meditation where the ego gets dissolved. So here when a person is ready that I just want to dissolve this ego and merge into that supreme consciousness. It's like the drop wants to dissolve its identity and merge with the ocean. Or like that river wants to dissolve its identity and merge with the ocean. Similarly, a seeker finally, when he decides, okay, now I will take the final leap. I will dissolve my ego and merge in my own supreme nature. That is the prayana kal. It's very important. It's not that at the time of death means physical death. It can happen at any stage of our life. So prayana kale, once one has decided, one has to focus one's attention on that supreme reality completely, 100% attention. Therefore, Bhagavan uses so many terms to point out the 100% attention required. The first is manasa achalena, with a mind which is not chanchal, which is not moving, with a steady mind, achala manasa. One has to bring the mind to a steady posture. See, the mind, constantly the thoughts keep on erupting in the mind, coming up in the mind. This can be overcome through practice. These are called vrittis which keep on coming. This can be overcome through practice of meditation. Then the mind also consciously will think of something. That can be overcome through vairagya. So, in 6th chapter also Bhagavan has said that abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha gruhyate. Through abhyas and through vairagya you can control the mind. You can calm the mind, make the mind quiet. So the thoughts keep on coming by nature from within can be brought under control by constantly practicing, because mind is made up of habits. If the mind is trained to be quiet, then it can remain quiet. Just like they train the dogs and horses and all. Some horses they train, otherwise horses are so chanchal, they don't want to remain at one place. But when they are trained, they are absolutely still. You must have seen during the parade and all, or even the camels and all, absolutely not even bending their head. They're absolutely steady. Why? They're trained. So similarly, the mind can be trained. So training the mind is called abhyas, and educating the mind is called vairagya. Through vairagya, we have to educate the mind, tell the mind that don't get attached to all those things. The real joy is in the self. So through abhyas and vairagya, the mind can become absolutely steady. There is no disturbance coming from within, and there is no disturbance coming from outside. The outside disturbance is stopped through vairagya, and the disturbance from within is controlled through abhyas. So mind has become absolutely still. Like the great which hear stories in the Puranas and all, of even Shukdevji Maharaj. Was steady mind, like all the noise of the world and all the attraction, so-called attraction of the world, did not disturb his mind. He remained absolutely still. So with manasa achalena, to attain this achal mana itself might take a long time. But suppose one has attained this stage of steady mind. Bhagavan adds some two more points. He says steady mind itself is not complete. One more quality. Oh, this itself is so difficult. Why one more quality you want? Says bhaktya yuktaha, endowed with devotion. See, this steady mind is attained through abhyas and vairagya. Vairagya is this passion towards the world of objects and their pleasure, and abhyas by constantly practice. These are all to keep the mind steady, but that steady mind, when it is directed towards that supreme goal, when the steady mind is dedicated with love toward that supreme, then that is bhakti. Just keeping the mind steady itself is not complete, but in that mind, in that steady mind, one should have intense love for that supreme reality, intense attraction for that supreme, intense desire to become one with that supreme. That is called bhakti. Bhakti is an intense desire to become one with the beloved. The more the oneness, the more is bhakti. Complete oneness, complete identification, complete bhakti. It's a desire to become one with the beloved. In fact, even in this world, whatever objects or whatever person, whatever things which we like, we want to just identify with that. But complete identification with anything of this world is not possible. Again, this separation is there. And that separation causes us sorrow, causes us fear, causes pain, causes jealousy, pride, this, that, everything. We want to become one with objects, with people, with things and beings, but it is not possible. It is possible, this oneness with that supreme reality, because I am really one with that. So bhakti is an intense love, intense desire to become one with that supreme. That intensity is very important. That intensity will further help me in that final leap. It's like a person want to leap, want to jump. First he should be steady and all, but then the goal should be very clear and then he should jump. Recently we had these games and all. So a person diving into the pool of water has to first steady the body. You must have seen in Olympics and in the games and all, the sports person goes on that, what is it called? Diving board. He goes there. Sometimes they turn ulta and all. And they are closing their eyes and steady. What are they thinking at that time? Are they thinking of their dinner? पता नहीं आज क्या बनाया घर में? Are they thinking of their children? बच्चे पढ़ाई नहीं करते आजकल, क्या बात है? हमारे ज़माने में हम लोग कितना करते थे. Is he thinking like that? No. Is he thinking that after this diving I have to go there and I have to meet that person and I hope he is there and all? Nothing. At that moment he is 100% there. If he is there, if he is thinking all this, that fellow will jump somewhere else only. 100%. See, that is what, when we are doing japa, our mind should be on 100% on God, not on other things.